What is up, everybody? Welcome back or welcome to Optimal Self Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back. If those of you who have been here before, you know the drill. These are just little 5 to 10 minute conversations. Focus on a topic, focus on a quote sometimes it's a word, but really the object of today, the object of these conversations is simple. It's to give us all an opportunity to find things so that we can better our lives and ultimately become the best version of ourselves, right? So if it's your first time here, welcome to, and thank you for joining us. Absolutely, positively cannot wait to get to this conversation, and I'm super grateful that you chose to be part of it. I know that your time is extremely valuable, so we try to keep these relatively short so that you can get in and get out and hopefully take something to think about. And we're just planting little seeds inside ourselves so that ultimately our internal narrative gets better and better. All right. So welcome to Optimal Self Live. Let's get after it. Let's have some fun. Today, what we're going to talk about, or the word I want to use today to focus on, is focus, right? Because our focus is ultimately what determines our reality. So again, when you're focused on things that are maybe in the negative environment, then you're going to get more of the negative, right? If you focus on things that are maybe a little bit more positive or a little bit more upbeat, then we get things that are a little bit more positive, that we have the opportunities to grow, right? But we have to always be navigating our focus. So where is your focus right now? What went on in your life today? And then let's rewind that for a second and think, what was I focused on? What was my brain? What was my mind on that caused those things? And it could have been the most wonderful day ever, right? It could have been something incredible. And now what do we want to do? We want to keep that focus so we can duplicate it. And if it's not, and if today hasn't been such a great day, rewind it and ask yourself, did I start with, I don't know, maybe it was social media. Maybe I saw or I read some post and it started to throw me for a loop. Maybe I turned on a radio, or I turned on a podcast, or I turned on a TV, and it led me down a different road. Maybe it led me down a wonderful road. What does that look like? Today, my day started with a book, and it was absolutely incredible. My energy today has just been fantastic, and I've had some incredible meetings, some incredible conversations, and when I unwind it and I think about how did I start, that's the very first thing that came to me. The very first thing that I used today, the very first thing that went into my mind today was a John Maxwell book. And so I want you guys right now to say, am I living to my optimal self? And if I'm not, then what is it that I'm feeding myself? What is it that I am consuming? And if you haven't seen it, look a few days back and look under consumption and watch that video, right? But just remember this, what you focus on expands. So if you want more shit, focus on bullshit. If you want a better world, focus on that, right? And ask yourself this question. Because if you think about this for a second, if your focus is going down a negative road, it's usually because I'm looking at what could go wrong, right? I'm looking at what is wrong or what could go bad. I'm looking at things and I'm not really truly looking for the possibilities. Think about your relationships. Are you in a situation where you're noticing everything your spouse or lover or friend or whatever is doing wrong? And if that is the case, it's because that's where your focus is. But imagine for a second, we do the same thing to ourselves. And so when I start to focus on that internal narrative or that negative thing about me, then I start to notice more things about me that aren't so great or aren't going to lead me to being the best version of me, right? There's a book by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. And I want to share with you quickly just a little story. There's a gentleman in there. And in the book, they talk about how the compound effect works, right? How one step leads to another, and it compounds over time. It's just like your wealth. right? If you're in interest-bearing accounts, that wealth builds over time. Over a long period of time, you can grow extremely wealthy by the compound effect. And in there, he talks about this, and it's one simple thing. And it was a gentleman and he was having a tough time with his wife. They were thinking about divorce. It was going down the wrong road. And he decided, went and got a journal. And what he decided is every single day, he's going to write one thing that he notices great about his wife. He's going to write one thing that he noticed that she did that day, that he enjoyed, that he liked, or that he's grateful for. Whatever that thing was. Just one thing every single day. And he started it, right? And he wrote it for 365 days. And what he talks about is as it was going on, each and every week, things got a little better and the relationship got a little better. And she started to notice and his life started to get better. Their life together started to get better. His business started. All of a sudden, these things grew on top of each other. And for Christmas that year, he wrapped up the book, the journal, and he gave it to her as a present. And he said, over this last year, I've been writing in here every day. And their relationship was incredible at this point. And she opened it. And you're talking about a gentleman who is extremely wealthy, very, very successful in business. I mean, uber successful in business. They have everything that you can imagine. The big house, the second houses. They travel like crazy on private jets. They have all these, great, unbelievably expensive cars and clothes and all these things. And she read the first page, and when he explained it to her, and she said, of all the things that you've ever given me, this is the most powerful and unbelievable thing that you've ever given me. Now let's take that for a second and think. That is something that we can give to others. What I want you to do is write something. What if we did that for ourselves? What if those of you that we are struggling, what if we did that for ourselves? To find something great about you, something that you like, something that you're proud of that you did that day. And just take that little bit and make a little quick note in your journal. And let's start to build that confidence in ourselves. Let's start to build that self-worth. Let's start to build that self-love so that you can be the best version of you. Because I can tell you, even in that story, he got better because he became grateful. And he talks about, even in there, is at work, he stopped looking for what was wrong and he started to reward people when they did things right. He started looking not for what they were doing wrong and how they could do it better, but starting to tell them when they did something right. Let's start doing that for ourselves. Let's start building our families and our friends and our world around what people are doing right, instead of always looking for what's wrong. Because that's easy to find. And guess what? You're going to find more and more and more and more of what's wrong. I'm not saying bury your head in the sand. I'm not saying be naive to what's going on. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't mishear me. But what I am saying is what you focus on expands, and that looking for what's right and believing in yourself and actually loving who you are in your skin as you are today will lead you to the best version of you, will lead you to your optimal self. All right? That's what I got for you today. It's about focus, and understand that what you focus on expands, and your focus ultimately becomes your reality. All right? There we go. Let's get our focus right, and let's have the greatest lives that we could possibly imagine. So please, as always, we at Optimal Self can't touch everybody. There's somebody in your life today that could use this, needs to hear this, and you have the opportunity to share it with them. So please, drop it in their DMs, share it on your page. Let's raise the level of humanity by helping one another, by believing in one another, and by focusing on the good that each one of you are. All right? Hop on over to optimalself.today. Get yourself pre-registered. Really cool stuff coming. And as always, Like, share, and comment because I love to see it. And see you tomorrow.